Live time. Welcome. Hello, Digit. Thank you for being first in chat. I'm here to, I don't know. Maybe I'll play some video games. How's it going? Good burp, 6 out of 10. Thank you. I'm drinking some Emperor of Clouds Hazy IPA. This one's a penguin. And I got a coffee. Hello, Gigadonk. Penguin, indeed. I have a lot of things I could do. A lot of things I could do. Obviously, I mean, everybody could do a lot of things, but I have a lot of things I'm interested in doing, and I'm having a really hard time zeroing in on one thing. That's why this is called mental channel swapping. Hello, Rieli. Hello. Your stuff is cool. Thank you for streaming at this time. I'm cooking fish. You know, I don't know. I've probably cooked salmon like a couple times. I've not cooked a lot of fish in my life. I have to go to a HRT appointment now, but I wanted to stop by and say meow meow. That's awesome. I need to get mine. I need to get on the road with that whole thing. But I ain't got no money. And I tend to spend my money as soon as I have it. And then immediately after spending my money be like, oh yeah, I needed that for that HRT stuff. It's not even super expensive, I don't think. But I need to make sure before I go to get my blood work done, that I have like some money in the bank to pay for that. I don't have insurance. Which would also be a thing to consider spending money on. I got to get my hustle up. That's why I'm live streaming right now. Although I'm not really, like, I always feel weird about live streaming with the impetus to make money, because I don't want to assume that that's something anyone's like interested in doing. You know, like I don't think people show up to a live stream with the expectation of like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show up to the stream. I'm going to throw money at this streamer. Some people do. I do think Landon operates that way, actually. But I don't think that's a commonplace act. I don't think that's the way most people engage with streams, you know? So it's always a weird feeling for me, because I feel like streaming should be my job, because I'm like relatively good at it. It's just hard for me to figure out what is the topic of the stream other than I'm streaming. You know, like if the impetus for streaming is it seems like a good way to make money, how do you turn that into something that's entertaining? You know, like into an entertainment. Like it has to have a subject matter. There has to be the stream has to be about something. But I've been really struggling with zeroing in on a thing to be about, like in a general sense, you know. And I have a lot of time. Like there's a lot of hours in the day, you know, 24 of them. Sleep maybe 8, so we'll say 16 hours to work with in the average day. Let's subtract like 6 hours for home shit, you know, so that's like 12 hours to work with in a day. And like in those 12 hours, if I could get 8 hours of like what would be considered work done, maybe 5 times a week, I feel like I had to make an amount of money that's normal to comparison to like how people on who have normal 9-to-5 jobs make. I just don't know what my job is. Monkey Mafioso says, Digi, I messaged you on Discord about doing ISMA. See, if you say things like Digi, I'm just like, I don't even want to do that though. I don't know that person. I don't know anything about a Digi. You're living too far in the past for me to connect with emotionally. Take off your clothes with each donation. Wait, wrong kind of stream. I would do that kind of stream. Not enough people. I would make less money. The funny thing is, less people want to see me naked than want to hear what I have to say about anime. So, like, you know, I know my lane. It's so funny, Digit not even knowing what ISMA is, but I'm you know, that's the turnover we're on. This is the new audience versus old audience. Doing the show is a good way to make money if that's what you hear about. Yeah, but also, like, delivery driving would be a good way to make money. Like, if that was it, you know, it's... Why not both? Do you personally have money to give me to strip? Because no one... You're the first person to suggest this. So unless you personally think you are going to pay for that, it's not... There's no reality where that happens. It's cool if we do the show without you. Who is we? If you want to make Insufferable Social Media Argument the podcast with Mumkey, Jones, and someone else, I will not stop you. I don't care. It's not going to do for you. I did that too. I did it with the Unknown Otaku. And granted, the Unknown Otaku is not entertaining, but that show didn't go anywhere. We did, like, probably 10 plus episodes. Like, you better have a real fucking entertaining co-host if you're gonna replace me on that show, because the point of it was the two of us are entertaining. I don't know who you're planning to do it with. If it's like Rusty Cage, maybe it'll work. I don't know. Somebody with some talent. I hope you're not doing it with fucking, you know, your old friends from Iowa. Eggy? That could be funny. If you want to do it with Eggy, that could be funny. I think it would be more... The problem is, Mumkey, that you and I, our audiences at this point are too different. My audience is woke. They won't find that podcast funny. Like, if you and Eggy want to do, like, a really edgy ISMA, your audience will probably enjoy that more. I don't think... Like, I think that if I did that podcast with you, it would appeal to your audience and not mine. You know? And so it just wouldn't... But yeah, no, I don't care if you do that show. I'm not attached to the branding or anything. I could pay you directly to be a guest on it. That would be more reasonable. That would be easier for me to manage. Look, the reason we are not doing this show is that nobody has produced it. I literally brought this to people like a year ago. I brought this to a whole fucking Twitter chat full of supposed creators and was like, somebody needs to be the producer for this. And Charles Kahn went, I'll be the producer, and they did no work. And Manny Muskets went, I could try that, and did no work. And nobody wanted to actually produce this show. So if you want to actually try to produce it and make a real thing that actually happens, I'm not interested in being a producer because I'm fucking can barely produce my own life. Like, my favorite thing to do is to stand in a bathroom and smoke weed and listen to the new Earl Sweatshirt album. That's what I would like to be doing. But it's kind of a weirdly expensive lifestyle in this economy and where I live. It'd be different, I guess, if I lived on the West Coast. It wouldn't be that expensive. Well, the housing would be worse. The smoking would be better. Smoke stream when you gotta pay for the weed. Then we could do it. We could all get high for an episode. Digit with $2. Thank you very much. I always encourage everyone to use the Cash App and the Venmo because then I get the money right now. Although Super Chats are still very worthwhile because I always forget about my phone bill that gets taken out not long after the YouTube money comes in. So if people didn't send Super Chats and then on the 21st of the month I didn't receive a few $100s worth of Super Chat and membership monies, I would not get my phone bill paid a few days later, you know? Tell people to pay you to take hits. They won't do that, though. Also, why would I want to... I don't want to, like... I would just be, like, literally begging people, like, can you please send more money so I can take another hit? Like, I don't think you understand the level I smoke at. I don't know anybody. I have not met anybody who can outsmoke me. Like, aside from maybe one or two rappers that I've met, I don't think there are people who can, like, pay me to smoke as much as I would just smoke anyways, you know? Like, you used to be on that level of smoking. I'll take your word for it. The only thing that stops me is that I cough very easily. And I've seen those videos. It's always some, like, twinkie white boy who can take the biggest bong hit you've ever seen in your life, where they got, like, the jumbo, massive, fucking, like, 10-foot gravity bong, and they'll drop, like, a whole, like, giant slab of wax in there, and they're fucking intaking for 45 seconds and, like, crying smoke out of their eyes and shit, and you're like, how are you alive? I wish I could do that. I will not say I can smoke like that, but I assume they do that and then they're just out, right? Like, they take that big ass bong hit for the video clip and then they just go to bed, probably. I'll be getting high all day, you know, like, wake up, start smoking, still smoking by the time I go to bed, like Snoop Dogg or fucking Childish Gambino or something. Maybe you can grow weed at home. I probably could. It's like, it takes a certain amount of, look, like I said, I can't even get my career right. Like, we gotta get, it's one step at a time, you know? I can't even, I'm really trying to get things under control, but I don't feel like reality's on my team. You know what I mean? Like, there are people who are on my team, but reality broadly is not trying to help me in what I'm doing. I feel like I'm fighting the tide. I feel like I'm fighting the ocean most of the time, you know? We went straight edge a while back, but I was smoking hard. 6 foot plus bongs, blunt after blunt after blunt, vape pipes went on. I was smoking all day, yeah. At my worst, I was smoking like 10 blunts a day, 10, 11 blunts a day. Before I understood how, like, wasteful that is and how much it was costing me compared to, like, what I could be spending on weed, you know, it was excessive. Snoop Dogg supposedly smokes 52 blunts a day. That was what he said on Reddit one time when he did an AMA. And I absolutely believe that that day he had smoked 52 blunts. Because he was just on Reddit all day. So what the fuck else was he gonna do? And as I understand it, he has a guy who, like, rolls them for him. You know, he's an endless supply of weed. He has a roller on hand. Like, he pays somebody just to roll blunts for him as their job. And when I was at the height of my smoking, I was like, I want to be known the way Snoop Dogg is known, or Wiz Khalifa, or Childish Gambino, as, like, when you think of me, you think of weed, you know? But that culture is so divided from, like, my branding, particularly up to that point, that it just was like a total clash. It was like nothing about me getting obsessed with weed was hitting with my audience at all. So it did not, like, becomes like a profitable part of my identity to, like, lead it on or anything. A lot of straight edge in chat. I mean, protect it, I guess. Protect the straightness of your edge. Keeps you sharp. I feel that I am too sharp as a person. Like, that I am too edgy. And so I have to dull myself to a degree so that I won't be on edge all the time. Would you ever consider doing a PCP style podcast with your new social circle to get career back? I feel like we've been building kind of towards that direction, because Gigadonk and I, we've been doing our Let's Play show on Slime Dolls. And, like, we've also had Nisa in, like, we had her in 1 or 2 live streams that went really well. And Nisa and Krona have a podcast that they have been trying to launch together. I guess other stuff just has been getting in the way of it. But I think the 3 of us are almost like my ideal podcasting team. Like, I literally have dreamed of having, like, exactly those perspectives. Like, someone like Krona, someone like Nisa are, like, who I've had in mind as, like, this is who I need to do a podcast with, And so, like, running into both of them and the time we did that together was really nice. But for me in my life right now, like you said, to get your career back, PCP never made me any money. Never made me anything. I spent more money on PCP than I ever made from it. So, like, while I would love to have a podcast with my friends that people, like, were really endeared to, the PCP was not a money-making venture ever. The only money anyone ever made was me and Endless Jess and Best Guy Ever and Hippo and Ben each having our own individual Patreons. Those were profitable. The PCP as a group made us like maybe $80 a month that we were spending more than that on doing the show. Like, so I don't see that as a money opportunity. And that's why I haven't put more effort into it yet. Like, it's something I would like to do, but my money is fucked up, Been straight edge for almost 2 years now. Golden Butterflies podcast needs to happen. I hadn't even considered doing a podcast just called Golden Butterflies. That never even occurred to me. What has stopped you throughout your life from writing a novel? You clearly really wanted to do it, so what happened? It's fucking hard. I try all the time, and I'm not that interested in fantasy. I am more interested in reality. I'm more interested in journalism, so the better question is, why don't I do journalism more? And the answer to that is, I have such a weird reputation, and no real intentions of, like, not having a weird reputation, that it's hard for me to, like, form connections and make contacts with people, and, like, for people to want to interact with me because, like, they're worried about what it's going to do to their reputation, So, like, as a journalist, I feel like I've already burned too many industry bridges to really, like, get those connections. And also, I'm just not good at scheduling. I'm not good at being present in general. And when it comes to writing a novel, it's just like I lose interest really easily in the like it's very dissociative to write a novel, right? Like, you're literally imagining another world that's not real happening instead of participating in what you're doing. So it's one of the most dissociative, like, types of media that there is. This is like a weird experience because I'm, in a literal sense, talking to no one. I'm sitting in a room talking to no one. But I conceptually know that you are there. Like, you can see me, you can hear me, I can read what you're saying, we can have a back and forth. So it feels more real, and that is what makes it more appealing to me. Like, that feeling of, okay, but this is communication. There's you can ask me questions and I can just give you the answer. Whereas if you read a book of mine, you might read the whole book and have questions that go unanswered. And then if you come ask me those questions, I'm going to answer them because I'm just a realist about things. Like, I do want you to know what my intent was. But when you get to a level where you can just explain what your intentions were, then it's like, well, why does it even need to be abstracted through a story? Why not just, like, why not just say what you mean, Sometimes I think most of the time that people are writers, there is an aspect of therapy to it, right? There's an aspect of, I had to write this to work through these feelings. and to get this thing that like I couldn't, like, it won't leave my mind. It's still sitting there, you know, and I need this thing to be realized. And for me, there are some things that like I've written an amount of and I think it's really good, but it becomes a feeling of obligation of like, well, I want the world to see this because it's good, but I'm not still dealing with these feelings. I'm not still going through this. So like it doesn't have that same relevance on like a, you know, a therapeutic level. And so, you know, sometimes I get an idea, I scribble some stuff out about it, and then like I've kind of resolved on the level of like what I'm going through. Like I can look at what I just wrote and say, oh, I wrote that because I feel like this. I don't think most writers can do that. Most writers are not like interested in psychology on that level where they're like analyzing their own writing. They're just writing it and putting it out there. So like I really think like where I specialize is analysis. I specialize in analysis because I analyze everything, including my own writing, including my own actions, the things I say, the things I write, you know. So if I'm going to just be analyzing anyways, then I think it makes sense for me to specialize there. And I do think I'm better at it than most people. You know, I'm just like one of the better people at analysis. The problem is what to analyze. Like what is worth analyzing that, because why do I think I'm more interested in the real world than fantasy? Because when I look at fantasy, all I see is the author. Like all I see when I look at art is what the person is going through and thinking and what they put into it, because I relate to creators easily. You know, like I think that that's my interest in creativity, is that I see myself in creative people, but I also think that most creative people think that it's way more mysterious than it is. Like they think there's something really special and unique about what they're going through, and there kind of is, but at the same time, the whole reason that their work can translate to other people is that those experiences are somewhat universal, that there's enough similarity between what you're going through and what the next person is going through that they can connect to your work. And if there wasn't that, then they won't, you know. And there are plenty of people who actually are so unique that no one likes their work, you know, except for people who like things because they're unique. And it's really hard for those people to find that kind of stuff and to innately care about it, you know, unless it's like really high quality. There's plenty of people who are making art for themselves that no one cares about and never will, you know. All I see while looking at fantasy is the author quote worthy. Very true. Thank you. Mad3ub. I don't know if I've ever seen your name before. Madeub. Is that what it's how it's supposed to be read? Madeub. Yeah, like I start thinking about it from a psychological perspective right away. And like I also start projecting like my own psychology onto the writing pretty easily, you know, and I do tend to seek out stuff that I relate to because it reminds me of myself. But like yeah, like if I can just explain what the story is trying to say, then it doesn't feel like I need to tell a story. Like the story is what I said, you know. I think that stories are there because a lot of things can't be communicated that easily. And most people aren't that good at communicating what they mean, like, straightforwardly. It's a skill I've spent 20 years honing, you know, like, so it's not surprising to me that I'm better at communicating in that straightforward way. It's just that isn't, like, being straightforward isn't taken artistically, you know, which is interesting, and even by me. Like, I'm somebody who, especially growing up, what I thought was the coolest stuff was the stuff I understood the least, you know, like the Mars Volta lyrics. Like, I know what they're saying now. It took a long time and a lot of thought and a lot of learning analysis and learning language and learning words to be like, oh, this is what they're saying. But now that I am at that level where I understand what everyone is saying, none of it feels very unique anymore, because it's all just the human experience, which is not, like, again, there are little things that are different enough that it's always somewhat interesting, but the broad strokes are always the same. And so it's hard for me to want to zero in on anything specific, because I'm just looking at it like, well, what makes this more worth zeroing in on than the next thing? You know, like, if I can name 500,000 fucking great artists, how do I pick one that I'm going to talk about, you know? Or if I have myself 500,000 great ideas, how do I pick one to realize? How do I decide this one has to happen and this one doesn't, you know? And usually I just think like, well, what will actually benefit me? You know, like all of these are cool ideas. Some of these would be really fun to do, really satisfying from my perspective, but will they actually make me money? Will anybody care? Will I spend all this time on it and then it does nothing, you know? That tends to govern more so what I'm thinking about. If they're all equally good, just pick at random. I mean, I wish I'm the type of person who will, you know, pick one at random and then be like, yeah, but that's not the one though, you know, like I'll just keep second guessing it eternally. And they're not all equally good. They're all good in different ways, right? It's like when an RPG is like, this one's plus 15 strength and minus 5 agility, and this one's, you know, plus 10 agility and plus 10 strength, and you're like, well, fuck, I don't know which one I necessarily think is better, you know. It's circumstantial. If you're going into a place where the enemies are fast, pick the one with more agility, you know. But I don't know what I really have been struggling to identify the climate of things. Like, most people are way more tapped into mainstream media than I am, and so... And I hate mainstream media. You know, like, I'm never going to talk about the news. I'm never going to talk about, like, fucking the new fucking TV show or whatever. You know, like, I'm not that tapped in. So it's hard for me to figure out. I'm very tapped into hip-hop, but I'm also, like, a white nerd from the suburbs. So, like, talking about hip-hop feels weird to me, you know, as someone who legitimately respects it. It's hard for me to be like, I'm going to dedicate my life and career to being a voice in this community that I'm a guest in, you know, like, I'd prefer to pick something that feels more natural, but, like, you just got to show up and do the work. It isn't always going to pay off. But to where? Show up to where and do the work, you know? I'm not good at choosing it all, but part of it for me is just moving on gut feeling. That's what I do the most. I mean, obviously, I still put out lots of stuff. And I also... Lately, I've been recording a lot of stuff and forgetting to edit it. But I have to pee, so I'm just going to put on this Dyron Miller beat and go to the bathroom. Okay, I'm back. Nova and Nisa hip hop podcast when though? Ooh, that's not a bad idea. Remind me about that idea later. I didn't even think about doing a hip hop podcast. If you want to do that, we could give that a shot. just talk about hip hop anyway. Whatever work is to you. For me, it's just making art. Lol. I just feel like I'm terrible at writing analysis of anything other than anime. Isabel, I think your perspective is so unique that you could write about anything and I'm going to check in just because you are a unique person. And also, like, being interested in analysis is already above the level of most analysis. You get your start somewhere. Start each hip-hop video with a disclaimer that explains all the stuff you just said about your place in the hip-hop world. That's kind of what Professor Sky does. He doesn't necessarily start with it, but he does bring it up every time. But I also don't feel the same way Professor Sky does, because I am literally like a very light-skinned person. I do not self-identify as a white person. Like, I don't... Not in the sense that, oh, I'm something else, just that I don't identify racially. Like, and I don't like white people also. So I have certain, it's tough. I think my opinions about white people are actually why it's hard for me to talk about hip hop. Not because I'm white in the hip hop space, but because I have such a weird contentious relationship with the white race in general. And I don't want to have to get into it all the time. Because then I just look like a self-hating white person. And it's not that. I love myself. I just don't see myself as a white person in the sense of that identity means nothing to me. I think white people fucked everything up, including my ancestors. I don't want anything to do with them. I'm not proud of my ancestry. I think they were bad people, you know? Not even like a couple generations up, you know? Like, I don't like my ancestors. I don't think they did good. I don't think it's a culture worth preserving or that I feel any connection to. You know, like, I grew up entirely with Japanese culture. I was a fan of Power Rangers from like age 3. You know, I was into Power Rangers. I know because I'm pretty sure my 3rd birthday cake is a Power Ranger cake. Maybe it was 4th. I know it was a Megazord for like my 3rd or 4th birthday, you know, so age 3 I was into Japanese culture. You know, the most American things I liked as a kid were Jurassic Park and fucking Mortal Kombat, but like, I grew up with Power Rangers. Wait, what? Power Rangers is Japanese? You didn't know that? It's originally, if you go back and watch Power Rangers now, you will be shocked to realize that half of the footage is a Japanese show and half of the footage is an American show. But yeah, the Japanese show Super Sentai, that's been running since the 70s, starting with one of the shows from like the late 80s, they started just like basically taking all of the non-action scenes that have live face actors and doing like recording American stuff, and then literally intercutting that with the Japanese action footage. Some things you'll notice, for instance, that the Yellow Ranger is a woman according to the footage outside of the suits, but if you actually look at the suit actors, the Yellow Ranger is not a woman in the Japanese version of the show. So yeah, and also like the camera quality is completely fucking different. You know, the Japanese scenes include the Rita Repulsa scenes, so those are all dubbed over in English. It's very obvious when you watch it back as an adult, but as a kid I had no idea. But I had heard. I also didn't know the difference between Japan and China as a kid, so I just thought of it as it's from Japan, China, whatever, that area. I think I knew that Japan was near China, but I just thought they were like the same thing until Nintendo and Pokemon. But like then I became a huge Nintendo and Pokemon fan, you know, so like, and then a big anime fan. So it's just like everything I've ever loved came from Japan. And if it came from America, it did not come from white people, you know? So, like, I feel very, very little connection to anything white. I hate country music, you know, like, can't fucking stand it. It, like, I have a gut, like, revulsion. It's not that I think it's a bad genre of music. It's fine. I have a gut revulsion to it because I was raised to hate it, you know? Like, Um, so yeah, like I just there's some like alternative white culture from the 90s that I like, but most of it is about not liking other white people, like Jane's Addiction. Oh man. Country music sounds inbred. Everything is inbred though. That's just the world. That's not a white people thing. That's just a people thing. This just reminded me my Esper might be stuck in Japan. Rest in peace. Oh no. Esper's so good. The first thing I loved that was Japanese was a Japanese lullaby I memorized in 2 viewings when I was a couple months old. Wow. You were fucking singing songs at a couple months old, according to your grandma? That's wild. I don't know what my first words were, but I assume they were probably Ham Time Racer. That was probably mom or dad. I've been thinking I might play video game, but I have a really hard time playing video game and paying attention to chat at the same time. First word was turtle when you were 1 week old. That doesn't even make sense. How the fuck could you have said turtle as a 1 week old? That's crazy. That doesn't check out. I don't think that's a thing. But I'm not saying I don't believe you. I'm just saying that reality doesn't make sense. Alright. I think I might play Shantae on the Game Boy. What do y'all think? That's too fucking loud. Not 1 week. Even 1 month would be crazy. Your first word was jugo, which is juice in Spanish. Hugo, I mean. Gonna chase that paper trip. My first words were share the wealth, comrade. This is definitely too loud. You read controller? You not read controller? Definitely not read controller. Ooh. Yeah, hold on. A. The speed is glitchy. No snitching. Everybody pinching a little bit of weed into the bong. It ain't wrong to listen to a song that goes bleep, bleep, bleep like a beat, beat, beat. When you hear it, then you hear it in your sleep, sleep, sleep. After it gets repeat, repeat, repeated into your brain, and then you go insane. Like everybody go insane, go insane, go insane. 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 Hey, I'm just freestyling, 'cause I gotta be that has mileage. And I'm in the place. Never feel disgraced. Always feel a little bit misplaced. That's okay, because I run the state. President Trixie, Goldie Witch, in the bitch, and you know that it's with another hit, golden. Okay, wait, that didn't work. I hit reset and it didn't reset. Make it stop. Okay, wait, hold on. Let's see if the inputs are working. Okay, it seems to be working now. No, not System 32. What the fuck? I guess I had this. Yeah, okay, I just did it like this. It's Shantae 1 on the Game Boy. And just in case anyone's worried about the fact that I'm using an illegal ROM emulator, look at this. Look at that. I spent $100 on Shantae for the Game Boy Advance, and I haven't even opened that shit yet. I got the gold version. Okay. Wait, did I just pick a file I already had? What the no, hold on. Reset. Well, it looks like I'm at like the start of the game anyway, basically, but this isn't right. There we go, reset. Why don't you work? Why doesn't the reset button work? Hold on. One more time. This time I want to watch Shantae walk across the screen, though. Yes, please? Thank you. There we go. Look at her go. You got the purple one? Nice. This is so embarrassing. It looks like I was lying just now. No, you're fine. Three months. That makes more sense, but is still tremendously impressive. Most people don't start talking until a bit later than that, I think.
What? Not another pirate?
Oh. Oh, I can open my menu in the cutscene? That's interesting.
Attack!
Oh, pirate
Attack! I'd better warn Scuttletown. I'd better warn Scuttletown.
That's probably how that should be read. Yeah. Hey, look at me. I got hair. So, I have considered many times going like all in on Shantae as a series that I would do like the deep dive on, right? I actually wrote like 60 pages about the history of the developer up through the first game like 3 years ago. You applied to work at WayForward? Interesting. I assume they're pretty fucking small, even to this day. You'd be so down to read, listen to, whatever. So, like, yeah, the thing about WayForward, alright, so here's my hesitation when it comes to Shantae. And I'm not gonna lie, it's some fucking woke shit. It's a game about a brown gypsy girl made by white people. And, like, so Matt Bozon is just like, and his wife, I think her name's Erin. Matt and Erin are just like otaku from the 90s, like early Ranma fans, you know, like old school 90s college anime otaku, you know. And Erin at some point worked for a camp. Like, she worked for some kind of day camp or whatever, and she met a woman who like fascinated her, who had been a belly dancer and just had, like, you know, a personality I guess she found really magnetic. So Erin conceptualized Shantae based on this real person that she met. And then she told her husband, Matt, about Shantae, who is a game designer who worked for WayForward. And the two of them just had, one of those talks where they get real creative. They start coming up with all these ideas of, she's going to turn into animals. She's going to do all this and that, And so Shantae was born. And then Matt puts his head to the desk and just fucking makes mostly, with his team, but he was like the lead designer on all these games. And a lot of WayForward's games at the time. And basically everyone at WayForward was just like gigantic Game Boy fans. Like they were playing every fucking obscure Game Boy game, shit that people didn't even know about, and they were just like huge Game Boy fans. So they start making like the ultimate Game Boy game, basically, that doesn't come out until 2002, when the Game Boy Advance has already been out for like a year.
So you're behind this attack, Risky Boots the lady pirate. In the flesh, sorry about your shack, darling. I thought you were a guardian genie, not some scrawny kid. Well, no matter, gotta haul booty. Ooh, she's up to no good, that's for sure. Well, if I'm gonna earn my keep as Scuttletown's genie, I'd better stop her.
Alexander Alex says, wish me luck on my job interview today. Watch you for a long time, love your videos. Oh, good luck. You should draw Risky Boots. You should draw Risky Boots. She's badass. Especially when you team up with her in the third, fourth game. Depends on how you look at it. So anyway, Matt and Aaron, they created this character. And like, I don't think she's like racist or anything. It's just like, she's also very much like a stereotype of a Middle Eastern belly dancer girl, like created by not Middle Eastern people. And like in terms of the tropes of the games, they're very weird because they're simultaneously like very like girl power, but they're also like have a somewhat perverse sense of humor, but also just like a weirdly like dark sense of humor. Like weirdly dark or gross things will happen in some of the games. Not so much in this one. But like the sense of humor is very like wry, and that comes through in some of the later games. And I also have just an issue with, so in between Shantae, right? Like, so they made Shantae. It's basically the ultimate Game Boy game that nobody bought because, Capcom published it. They held on to it for like a whole year after it could have come out in 2001 and been like right before the Game Boy Advance, but instead it was like the Game Boy Advance was already well established. Nobody bought Shantae. But WayForward was mostly making like tie-in games that are surprisingly good. Like they made the Sabrina games for the Game Boy before this, and like some other tie-in game that was okay. Wendy from something, I don't even remember. But yeah, like, so they were making other stuff, and some of it was pretty good. Like, but they started work on a Shantae Advance, and that project they got pretty far into and then shelved it, and then finally they finished it and released it with limited run games, and that's the thing I was holding up earlier. It's like just came out this year after like 20 plus years of being, held on to, sitting in a vault. But in the meantime, one of the games that Matt made and with WayForward was called Sigma Star Stories for the GBA. And that game had like a sort of middling reputation. Like it was considered like a cult favorite or whatever. And I played that game in the course of my like, covering WayForward. And that game has weirdly, even though it's like a fairly juvenile, very anime-esque game, I think it was heavily influenced by the anime Now and Then Here and There, which is like a really dark fantasy series where there's like, sexual assault implications. And Sigma Star Stories kind of randomly in the middle of the game implies that like the female like love interest type character, it like gets raped by the antagonist, like in the middle of a Game Boy Advance game with bright colorful graphics and a story that's not that serious. There's just a random sexual assault implication, and I was like, what the hell, you know? And like I saw it as like, okay, this is very anime. You know, it's very, like, trying to be dark and edgy. It just felt so out of place in Sigma Star Stories for the Game Boy Advance. And it's not, like, taken seriously by the narrative. It's kind of like a one-off line. Like, it's just in there, you know? And I was just kind of like, what the hell? Like, why would they do that, you know? Like, I get that they're trying to make it darker and more edgy with, like, some implications or whatever. But that just, it felt really wrong. And like, you know, even though I don't think any of the Shantae games have ever gone that dark, like, with it, I just had this feeling of like, okay, do I really trust the sensibilities of these people, you know, these designers? Like, and it's not that I think I have to for them to be interesting or for me to enjoy their games, you know, especially not to blame, like, the faults of one game on the rest of their like oeuvre or anything like that. It's just the kind of thing that if I ever get the chance to talk to Matt Bozon, I feel the need I would have to ask about it. You know, like what were you thinking? You know, like were you just trying to be edgy? Do you realize how this could be taken today? Do you regret this? You know, like just from a journalistic perspective.
Mimic. Hey, old man. Are you okay?
Look at what those Tinkerbats did to my workshop. I've got to stop them before they escape with my steam engine.
Steam engine? What's a steam engine?
I'll explain later. Right now we have to get it back.
You stay put. I'll handle this.
I just recently watched all of Attack on Titan and seen an old video rant by you trashing it. Did you ever get around to watching it? I did, and I actually enjoyed it. We talked about most of it on the Cantent show that I did with Best Guy Ever like 5 years ago. I don't think we covered the final season, but Bird and I did. I think we covered the final episode, which was disappointing. Like the ending was not very good, and we talked about that on the We Watch Anime channel. And I think Bird and I like kind of summarized our feelings on the final season, and then, you know, talked about the last two episodes for like 40 minutes or something like that. So you can find my thoughts there. But yeah, I thought it was mostly pretty good. Like, it has moments that are really hype and really good. I thought season 4 was the best part until the ending, and then it was like, this was silly. This was like doing too much. I would honestly say, like, Attack on Titan is a story that, in the effort of, like, the author decided at some point, oh, people really like this, so it has to be good, he tried, like, too hard to try to make something, like, complex and interesting, and I don't think he had the chops to make it, like, as good as he thought it was. I have to pee again. All right. I was thinking just now. Why it's so hard for me to pick a lane, like, and a thing to dedicate myself to. And it's that I have always had an obsessive personality. And where I think it comes from is that in my life, nothing was ever very consistent. Like, growing up, my family moved so often. I never had the same people around, the same environment around, the same stuff around. And, like, as a kid, I would lose my shit if we were, like, getting rid of our couch or something. I'd be like, that's the couch, you know, like, fucking crying and shit if, like, my parents changed what car they're driving, you know, because it was, like, the only things that were consistent, and I needed something to be consistent, and it just never was. Everything was always disappearing from me. And so by the time I was like 7 or 8, I was already so lost in this world of like things are always flying around my head and changing all the time. So what I would cling to is special interests, you know, something that I could just keep thinking about because it continually entertained me to think about it. And so even if everything was always changing, there were certain things I could internalize and be like, well, this thing is cool, you know? And I think that the stuff that appeals to me is stuff that has lots of just different lists and categories and factors and things that you can kind of line up in your mind and reorganize in your mind. So, like, I got really into stuff like the Power Rangers and Beast Wars that are kids shows with, like, kind of big casts, you know, where there's, like, characters and they have multiple forms and there's multiple factions, you know, and there's, like, a lot going on to kind of, even though, like, the action is simple, there's a lot of, like, lore and extra shit to process, you know. When I got really into dinosaurs for a while, it was, like, it wasn't that I, like, was watching Jurassic Park over and over again. It's that I watched that movie, and then I got this big book about dinosaurs, and then I started memorizing, like, how tall they all are and comparing them in my head, you know. And then getting into Pokemon, that whole franchise is practically built around that. It's literally 150 monsters in a list. They all have specific details. Like, it is a list-driven game, you know, and that became my obsession for, like, 4 years. So, like, I have this obsessive tendency that, like, I grab onto a thing, and then I want to be all in on that thing, and I want to know every detail about it. I want to know what, you know, the people who made it, like, what were they thinking, you know, like. So the older I've gotten, the more I have come to feel that if I'm going to have that level of loyalty to something, I need it to be reciprocated. And it's not that I need it to come from the thing itself, but I need, if I'm gonna, like, for instance, like, as a brony YouTuber, which is kind of how I first blew up, was as a brony YouTuber. I had a level of loyalty to the show in the sense that, like, I'm a fan of this show. I'm a part of the community. I watch the fan content. I watch every new episode when it comes out while it's airing, and I have an analysis video out by that afternoon, you know? Like, I was really in it, in the thick of it. But every time I would express something even a little bit negative about the show, there were people who acted like I was committing some big betrayal on the show or on them personally, you know? And to me, that in itself is a betrayal of me. It shows, like, you are not loyal to me on a level where you will, like, you feel like your loyalty to the show is at such a high level that someone else who is also loyal to the show but isn't, like, you know, literally blowing it every sentence of every review is less loyal than you and therefore cancelable, you know, or, like, doing something offensive. And the brony fandom was super fragile about the show. So every time I said anything a little negative, I got a lot of pushback, especially from really young people who I didn't really want watching my videos that much. Like, at first I was okay with appealing to a younger audience, but I got really sick of them. Like, I got sick of the dumb young people who would complain about the way I was approaching stuff, and they would always latch on to like, I would have a video where I might say like 6 minutes of really in-depth analytical points about the good things about an episode and then make one little complaint, and all the comments are about that complaint because it was literally just easier to understand what I was saying. Like the stuff I would say would be a little too advanced up until I got to the complaining part, and then that would get zeroed in on, and 75% of the comments are about 25% of the video, and that would really fucking piss me off. So that was when I started getting really edgy and kind of trying to scare those people away. But I had enough loyalty to the fan base that I was like, well, I can scare away these surface level people, but I'm still trying to appeal to that deeper set of like the really embedded fans. But then it got to a level of where you have to consider, by the time I even started watching My Little Pony, Lauren Faust had left the show because of how badly she was being treated by Hasbro. So like Lauren Faust was there for one season, and she was there for like she was there for all the build up work of season 2. Like she was there when they were planning it, but she had left by the time they even actually created season 2. The whole fucking show was her idea. It's her character designs, her character personalities. She wrote the Bible on the show. She was gone by the start of season 2. So, like, when you look at it from that perspective, it should not be at all surprising that Hasbro was going to eventually copyright lock down all the footage of the show. It should not be at all surprising that they were always going to have this contentious relationship with the Bronies that took, by the time they really sorted it out and it felt less contentious, it was like half, the fandom was already mostly dead. It was like just the people who are really dedicated because they don't know anything else who are still there. And the show went for a lot longer than I watched it. I haven't even seen half of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic because it went on for so fucking long. But again, like, I felt after like a year and a half in that fan base, not only that Hasbro didn't respect what I was doing by talking about their show, that the fan base didn't respect what I was doing by talking about their show. And, ultimately it just wasn't, it was like, well, I don't feel like people are giving me what I want out of doing this, And so I like slowly converted towards talking about anime. And I feel like my relationship towards anime fandom has always been contentious. But the reason that it was easier for me to make anime videos is that I'd just been obsessed with it for a lot longer, like it was something I had way more interest in and knowledge about. And then at some point I just exhausted all of it. Like I said everything I have to say about anime, and not enough is happening in the medium for me to feel like there's new exciting. It's so slow to grow. Anime is like the slowest fucking medium that there is in terms of like changing and growing. Like it's happening, it just happens so slowly. So there's not like new shit to say about anime like in the last 5 years. Not to say there's not any good new anime, there are, they just haven't changed like the way that anime is or anything like that. So that sector is not really necessarily exciting. The gaming sector I find more exciting, but that's where you really have to navigate like the type of gamer that ends up watching your channel, right? Because like there's a lot of people whose their identity as a gamer is like some very specific thing that I don't want to cater to at all, So I feel this sense of if I'm going to take this obsessive tendency I have and apply it to something on the level where like I'm dedicating my career to that thing, I want to know that the types of people I'm engaging with are worth engaging with, and like there is a level on which like I want to support, if it's art that I'm supporting, I want it to be something I at least consider to be like morally not necessarily, not that it can't be objectionable, just like I want to support businesses that are like independent and have good like where I know for a fact that they're not like tormenting the artists, you know, or like unless it's an artist tormenting themselves, that's fine, you know, but like I'd prefer to know that like I'm supporting a business that has good practices and that the art has a good message and that like, you know, that they actually care about the people who care about their work and that the fan base cares about the people who enter it. But the thing is, all of that is not something you can really find in something that that you just walk, like you can't just walk into a fan base that has all of that and be like, oh, I'm here now, you know, like this seems like a really cool place you've built, I'm gonna live here, you know, like I'm not trying to colonize a space that already exists is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to like naturally gravitate into something that legitimately appeals to me. And I think on some level I have to build something new. Like I have to build a new thing, a new community, but it can't be based on me is the problem. Like I'm not that interesting. I sit in a house and play video games and talk to the internet. Like I don't do interesting shit. I don't have like a cool artistic I have cool artistic ideas, not ones that are like in the process or ones that I'm like passionately dedicated to making happen. You know, like I'd rather be talking about like if somebody has a project that is super fucking cool and needs to be talked about and nobody's talking about it, you know, I'd like to help that happen. But it only becomes beneficial to me if then like there's an audience that actually like gets in on that same level of loyalty. You know, it would have to be that, you know, the developer is super into what they're doing, I'm super into what they're doing, and the audience seeing how into it we both are, you know, would like gravitate towards that, and I could be like their liaison towards. I think I'm a good liaison to art. I think I'm good at explaining why things are good, why people care about stuff, like I'm good at explaining what the artist did to make the thing good and also why the audience accepts that as good. That is the gap I'm good at bridging as an analyst. And it's hard to like describe why that's valuable, but it clearly is because of the way people react to what I do, you know. It's just a matter of like, again, dedicating yourself to something where I don't feel like I'm going to be chewed up and spit out by the machine. You know, anime does not care about me. It barely cares about the Western audience at all. It definitely doesn't care about Western YouTubers, you know, and I will get fucked over by anime a billion times out of a billion. So it feels like, it's hard to bring myself to want to talk about anime when I know it's not going to benefit me. It's going to like lead to my videos getting taken down. So I'm kind of curious where you all, because people always tell me like, if you just talk about anything you're interested in, I'll listen to it. And that's true, but it's kind of not, it's not that helpful if you just listen to me talk about it, but you don't engage with the thing itself, because then you're just going to forget what I said about it. Like, it's fine if you're entertained by me and just listening to me talk, but that's not really the goal. The goal is to get you to check the stuff out. You know, like if I'm going to talk about some video game that I think is amazing, it's because my expectation is that you will also play the game, also think it's amazing, and then that conversation can continue. Because if it's just like I make a video about a thing and you watch that video and you go, wow, that sure was an interesting thing, and then you never think about that thing again, like there's nothing to build on there. You know, it just feels like that was a one-off thing, and it's not like a conversation that continues, you know? So I think that's another place where I've been struggling, is that I've done a lot of one-offs, you know, I've done a ton of one-off videos that just don't lead anywhere, you know, like they're interesting in and of themselves, but then bringing back Patreon rants, I have brought them back a bunch of times through streams. Basically, I mean, if you wanted a rant right now, send me a rant request, I'll do it. Like, I generally will take any requests on stream. I don't do it through Patreon anymore because the rigid like once a month structure just does not work well with me. It's hard for me to keep up with. I'm not always ready to do a video on that schedule. Like, if I'm live, it means I'm ready to rant about something, but it takes a lot of build up for me to go live. Like, it takes a lot of me convincing myself that if a live stream, like, okay, we've been live for an hour 10 minutes, I've made $2. So from a financial perspective, this is not a successful live stream. That would bother me a lot if I didn't get like into the right mental state to do a stream where I was like, I need to be prepared for, if this does nothing for me, I will be okay with that. Like, that's the or if it does very little for me, $2 isn't nothing, but it is very little. So it's like for an hour. So I have to, work myself into the mindset of being okay with that before I start streaming, and that is often difficult for me. I must have watched hundreds of those rants. Yeah, there's a fucking lot of them. I removed a lot of them from the every YouTube video featuring Trixie playlist, because you can only put 5,000 videos in a playlist, and there's just so many rants that they were occupying like more than 1,000 places in that playlist. So I removed almost everything that says rant from that. Obviously, they're all still up on the channel, but I just figured if anything has to go from the playlist, it's gonna be the fucking 1,000 nondescript rants that are all basically the same thing. The rant hole, indeed. Was that what it started as, the rant hole? It was the rant hole. Because it started off in like the fucking furnace room of the Boston house. I think that was the rant hole. I know the name changed every time I moved it. You only watched like 5 apparently? Damn. Out of the like 1,000 of them that existed. There's repeats and shit. There's just so many of them. It's kind of hard to say what will engage people to a point where they'll just talk about it for a while, because we live in a media consuming society where most people just consume things like a vacuum. That is absolutely true. And move on to something else. See, that's the thing too, is that like I will consume so much in the average day that I forget most of it. Like, I might listen to 5 new albums in a day, and depending on how many of them slot into my life comfortably is how many of them I'll listen to again. Like, I've probably listened to that new Earl Sweatshirt album like 25 times already, just because it's only 22 minutes long. It's very easy to throw on and just have on in the background while you're doing anything, There's a lot of boring and nothing burger ones. Yeah, absolutely. No, I wouldn't recommend watching most of them. They were made for the people who requested them, Like, if other people watched them, that was almost incidental. But some of them got pretty decent views. But, yeah, I think I diluted myself pretty heavily by doing so much content for so long. And it's funny because people who remember my opinions from back then will often feel like, well, I already heard you talk about this. And I'm like, I guarantee you I don't feel the same way as I did back then. Like, I guarantee you all of those rants are hideously inaccurate to how I would feel if I returned to the same subjects again. When I watch old videos of me, the thing that strikes me the most is how difficult it sounds to, how much difficulty it sounds like I'm having talking. Like, how angry I sound, how frustrated, how, over it I sound in every video. Like, it just always sounded exasperated. Gotta go back to your old aesthetic with the long beard, sunglasses, and door, and a bunch of anime posters in a dimly dark room. Yeah, that's obviously never happening. Obviously never happening. I am like sick to my stomach with the hair that I have on my body right now. I have to shave all the time to not feel that way, and sometimes I don't want to shave all the time. It sucks. It sucks to do. So I spend a lot of time just feeling like shit because I'm like, well, I've got hair and I don't want to spend the next hour and a half shaving, but I also don't want to spend any time having this hair. So it's a constant problem. The sunglasses, of course, could come back, but I think Giga rocks them better than I do. I think she's better with the round sunglasses. Because the sunglasses with the bangs is like a whole aesthetic. When I wear the round sunglasses with my hair pulled back, I just look like Razor Fist, and it's not cute. Also, I feel like having naturally big, beautiful blue eyes is something you should use to your advantage. I feel like I made a mistake. Although I barely ever look at the camera, so maybe the eyes aren't that much of a benefit, but I'm out of coffee again. So here's some things that I've been working at lately. Here's some recent things I've worked on. Because Krona and I are working on a series where each of us played Dragon Quest 1. We recorded our playthrough. We're going to edit those playthroughs so that they are like their own videos. And probably sell that playthrough as bonus content to what will be a discussion video, where the two of us are going to discuss the game, and then I'm going to intercut footage of our playthroughs with the discussion. Sort of similar to how the show previously recorded from Red Letter Media was done, or like how Resonant Arc is done, although they don't usually edit in like their actual reactions to the game. I'm going to have our actual reactions in there. Or the old show Tokyo Encounter, which to me is like my most influential Let's Play show. But yeah, we're going to do Dragon Quest discussion, and basically the goal is to cover the first 6 Dragon Quests and the first 6 Final Fantasy, and then Chrono Trigger as like one like era of RPGs, told in its entirety, of JRPGs told in its entirety. And I am also personally interested in some of the other major RPG franchises from that era, particularly Phantasy Star. Because Phantasy Star Online is one of my favorite games of all time, and the Phantasy Star series has really interesting aesthetics, mechanics, very different story from, the sword and sorcery type games of the era. So I've recorded like an hour of myself playing Phantasy Star 1. I've recorded the entirety of my Dragon Quest gameplay. I've recorded like an hour of myself playing Majora's Mask because I wanted to play through it before watching Krona play the whole game on our stream soon. But it kept crashing on me, so I didn't get that far. And then I have a large interest in the genre of Q-em-ups, so every once in a while I just do a bunch of research into Q-em-ups and play a bunch of Q-em-up games, and try to decide if I'm going to make videos about Q-em-ups, but I don't really know how to talk about them besides in like a, hey, look, kind of a way. Indie games. I'm tremendously interested in indie games because I see that as like where the most interesting independent creativity is happening right now. Sometimes I'll find an indie developer, play a couple of their games, and be like, this is super interesting. I should like deep dive this person's whole catalog and research them and try to get them for an interview. And then I think like, I don't know if I have time, if that will make any money or profit, if anyone will care. I got interested in the Atelier games, like maybe playing through all the Atelier games. I've got a few hours of me playing Atelier Mary recorded, which is an interesting game. I would play through it all the way and try to make a video about it. I'm just not sure if that's where I want to put my dedication. I keep coming up with ideas for stories, but I don't get very far into writing them. I have an idea for a short film that I've sort of started writing in my head, but I don't know exactly where it's going to go yet. I've just got a shitload of projects. Like, I've got a shitload of projects. I love Phantasy Star. I have Nova for Vita. I forgot there's a Phantasy Star Nova. I gotta play that for Nova's sake. I can't lie, your old aesthetic definitely added to the channel. You came off like this old otaku sage who has seen over 1,000 anime. Yeah, that sucks. That's a terrible type of a person. I don't want to be that person at all. Anime sage is not a person I want to hang out with or spend any time with. So I'm glad I don't come off that way at all. I don't like anime fans. Like, that's a big part. Like, the biggest reason I'm trying not to talk anime anymore is that, like, anime fans are fucking terrible. Not that there's like a type of a person I really want to be around. There might be individual people I like and could get along with, but there's not like an archetype of a person that usually if somebody fits into an archetype, my thought about them is, wow, you really are trying to fit into that archetype, huh? You know? Seen over 1,000 anime is so funny to me because I've seen over 2,000 anime. I've seen over 1,000. I've completed over 1,000 anime, but that's not even like a lot for like an anime guru. Hermit Kun said, I'm probably the archetype otaku loser. Sorry, Hermit Kun, but you are literally the archetype otaku loser because you're trying to be. You named yourself Hermit Kun. You've got a picture of a disheveled guy as your avatar, and you call yourself an archetype otaku loser. You are trying to be an archetype otaku loser, or else you are accidentally stumbling into the most classical archetype imaginable. No, you can't be not trying to do that. He's like, I literally go to anime conventions and like at least as people leave their house. Yeah. The profile pictures from NHK, yeah, exactly. Exactly. You are portraying yourself as the prototype anime otaku loser. Because it is a comforting identity. It's who you already are, and there's representation of it. So therefore, it's like, oh, well, I'm just this thing that already exists. This is my place in society. Don't you see it? It's here. And it's like, that's not a place. That place is abjected from society. Like, the point of that book is that the guy is a hikikomori. He's not in society, and the author did not get out of that state through writing that book either. We need a Trixie Atelier Games marathon. For it to become a marathon, I'd have to be any good at them. I basically did 2 45-minute failed attempts at Atelier Mary. Like, got 45 minutes in and went, I need to restart this. I have fucked up too badly. Although it's only like a 5-hour game from what I understand, so. I have been curious about those games for a long time. They just seemed boring / above my head based on what I see of them. I played Atelier Iris on the PS2 when I was younger, and I was expecting, like, my expectations of RPGs are that they are supposed to be epic adventures, so when it was not that, I was really disappointed. And now I look at it and I'm like, this is just not that. It's not an RPG in that category. It's more like a shop sim, you know, like closer to a shop sim than it is a traditional RPG. Put on long plays from Long Play Archive and commentate over them. No. It's too important to play a video game and understand the feel of it, I think. But yeah, when it comes to, like, for instance, covering the Atelier games, like, I don't really know what the fan base of those games is like. I'm scared to find out. And also, like, you know, again, talking about like a Japanese game series, it's like I don't know how much futuristic opportunity there is in like laying in on that, you know, or if I even would like all of the games, because I've only played a couple of them. So it could be the kind of thing where it's like I'm gonna go into this, and then I'd be like kind of disappointed, you know. I tried to do that once with the Tales of series, where I was like, I'm gonna go all in and do all the Tales of games, and then I covered Fantasia. It didn't get that much attention, and granted, I think that video could have been better, but like, I just felt like it would. I felt that doing a 50-minute video, like a full dive analysis on that game, would naturally have to get some kind of attention, and it really didn't. And then also, Tales of Destiny, like, there's Tales of Destiny Director's Cut looks substantially better than the regular game, and it did not have a translation yet. It does now. But at the time, I was like, oh, I kind of don't want to play the next game until there's a translation for the director's cut. But if I were to continue that series now, I would probably restart it and redo the Tales of Fantasia video. And I don't know, again, that's another place where it's like, is it really worth dedicating yourself to the Tales of franchise, you know? But when I think of it as like, it could be a fun way to spend a year, as like your job is play this RPG franchise, analyze it to an absurd depth, and be the hero that fan base has dreamed of, you know, like the person who did the whole series, who talked about all of it in depth, who justified the existence of your love for this thing to yourself. That's what I think analysts ultimately do. They are there to help you justify your feelings to yourself. You know, be like, oh, I love this thing, but I can't really explain why, until somebody who's really good at explaining why does that. But I think it requires that I actually share that level of love. And my love for something is not conditional to my understanding it. Like, I can understand something really well and not be that emotionally invested, or vice versa, be really emotionally invested and not know how to explain it at all. So it's like finding that just right Venn diagram, you know? Anyway, I've been talking shop too much. Almost exclusively, in fact, for this live stream. But I'm just here, losing my mind, working on the internet, as you do. In that old Attack on Titan rant video, I also trashed FMA 2003. You must apologize. Airy Rude Boy, have you not watched, like, any of my recent content? Have you seen the Anime Alphabet video on Fullmetal Alchemist? Like, I went really in-depth about it. Fullmetal Alchemist is not that good. Like, none of it. None of it's that good. There's not that much to analyze about the Atelier games. I don't know if that's true. But it would be different. Z Cypher, I don't think Airy Rude Boy is lost. They've been around. That's why I'm making fun of them extra. I'm like, you should know I talked about this. Robin Newhouse at €2 says, words. Thank you very much. Only your old videos get recommended to me unless I'm constantly watching your new videos for some reason. That sounds like YouTube. Mel Redgrave says, I love your music-focused stuff. Gotta be subscribed to Nova Loves Music, because Nova loves music. That's my alter who's doing music content. Maybe more of it, maybe. Talking about music on YouTube, really hard to make a profit on. But I'm trying. Have I played any Fire Emblem games? Only really 7 and 8. The Game Boy Advance games. and I restarted 7 recently. That's another thing where I have literally several hours of footage of me playing Fire Emblem. And I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Like the reason I started is because, so Rhyme Kickflips is a huge Fire Emblem fan, and Krona bought Fire Emblem GBA on the recommendation from Rhyme that that's the best place to start with Fire Emblem. And I was like, oh, sick. Krona's playing Fire Emblem. I'm going to play Fire Emblem 2, because I'm going to bandwagon on it, and then we'll be able to play together. And then she immediately became autistically fixated on Pokemon and went totally into a Pokemon hole and totally forgot about Fire Emblem. And so I had recorded like a couple hours of myself playing it and gotten a little farther than her, but I was going to like wait for her to get back to the game, and she did not. So then I followed her into Pokemon. She started playing Pokemon Platinum, and I started playing it too. But then we did a couple of live streams together where it became clear to me that she and I are in very different places when it comes to playing video games right now. Because I'm in the headspace of, it's not really worth playing a game if you're not just going to like take your time and be super thorough. Like for me, playing a video game is like, this is what I'm doing now. This is what my life is now. So I'm just going to like live in this game and play it to the fullest extent and really take my time. And she was really just plowing through the Pokemon games. She was just like back to back, boom, 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 through the Pokemon games, which is more like how my brother Victor would play them. So I understood. But when she noticed I was trying to catch every Pokemon in Platinum, she was kind of like, oh. And I think weirdly we both lost interest after that. Like her realizing, because at some point as we were playing, she was like, yeah, I couldn't imagine going through the game like this slow of a pace. And I just said, Krona, the game is boring. Like, Pokemon is a boring video game. Like, it doesn't become more or less fun if you do it faster or slower. It's boring. And not long after saying that, we both kind of stopped, and then she switched over to Zelda. And I think she played a little bit of Fire Emblem in between. But then she got fixated on Zelda, and I was like, well, this is a safe place to be, because both of us really wanted to have played Ocarina of Time together. Like, we both knew that we loved that game, and that it would be a good idea for us to go through it together. And, like, I was kind of holding off at first, because I thought it was going to be, like, this big thing. I was thinking, like, oh, well, that's, like, a whole 30 hours of Let's Plays or whatever, and it's like that's literally less than 10 hours when you've got someone who's really good at it playing it, And again, her interest is not in, I'm gonna fucking 100% Ocarina of Time and do all the busy work. She's like, I'm gonna play this game, I'm gonna like beat this game. Like, that is the satisfaction, is like that you can beat it, So she's been doing that with Zelda. We're like, in between the streams we're doing, she's beating other Zelda games. Like, just going off and beating ones. Like, some of them she beat on her channel on camera, so she beat off camera, just beating Zeldas left and right. My fixation is kind of the opposite of that. Like, if I get into something, I am like, I'll play for an hour, and then I'll have so many thoughts that I'll be thinking about it all night, and then I will get to a point where I've played too far ahead of my thoughts, and then I've got like hours worth of thoughts in my brain, and I start forgetting shit, and then I get upset, and then I stop playing the game. That tends to be my video game experience. The games are just so dense. Like, there's so much going on in a video game that seems like you play games like it's your first playthrough every time. I've barely ever played a game more than once, so it usually is my first playthrough. Platinum, I had never played Platinum before, so like, the idea of returning to a piece of media after completing it is like something that in my teens I found like foreign, because I was constantly trying to find new shit. Like, I was always like, well, there's so much that exists that I haven't gotten to yet. How will I get to all of that? Over time, my taste has become more and more and more narrow, where, like, for a really long time, I thought I was going to have to play, like, every JRPG. Like, in my brain, every classic JRPG was my task to play. And now I've come to a comfortable point of realizing, like, I'm not going to play most PS1 games because they're too fucking slow. Like all those classic 70-hour RPGs, I know they have good stories, good characters, whatever. When they came out, they were the best you could possibly get. Now they are clunky and slow, and like it's not that they're bad, it's just that I can't with that because I came in late. I came into RPGs in the 2000s with Final Fantasy X and like Golden Sun. So like in my expectation, an RPG is either a fast-paced handheld or a long involved narrative experience on a console, but also one that doesn't take 80 years to wait for load times, like so like a lot of those 90s games that for a long time I was like, I'm gonna have to play all of these. Now I'm like, I don't think I'll ever play any of these except for like Wild Arms 3 because you get to be a girl, like or maybe Breath of Fire 4 because you get to be a girl at parts, like play Gothic. I can't even imagine getting into a game as deep as that. Like I like games when they are really straightforward and really short. If a game is like less than 5 hours and you can figure out all the mechanics in the first 30 minutes or so, that's pretty ideal, Never fear, the Landon is here. OMG, crowd cheers. Hello, Landon. You're not good at games that are too straightforward. You like to wander around, so you pick Trails as your series to stream. I don't know much about those games other than that they are like full of NPCs that have their own stories and stuff. But yeah, that kind of stuff. Like, I mean, I do like RPGs that go in a lot on the NPCs and like the side stories and stuff. And Landon has to fund this stream. He just got here and I already am like ready to... I'm already pretty close to wrapping this up because it's not really going anywhere, and it's been a lot of shop talk, which I don't prefer to do publicly. It happens because it's what's on my mind, but I don't. Ideally, I would just show up to you with a product I was confident in, and you would go, "Wow, that's a cool product," and it would not be me going, "What should I make, guys? Here's 25 ideas that in your mind are all nebulous and don't mean anything. Which one should I pick?" Stop doing streams so fucking early. I wake up early because Bird gets up early. Alright, I super gotta pee. So one way or another, I'm putting something on. And I'll be back. And we'll sort through whether this is continuing or not. What do I want to put on? Here's a Trixie clip of me watching Ruby, I guess.
Hey, thanks for watching. Check out Trixie the Golden Witch on Twitch for more.
Sure, maybe I got paid already up front, and I need to maintain trust in my good audience viewer base. Also, I can't make any more money really until I finish watching the movie. That's the best reason, isn't it? And I game over. Let's watch episode 10. Ugh, it always starts off so fucking hard. It's so fucking impossibly hard. cheeseburger sandwich. Z Cypher said, "Can I have your job? What's your job?" Pretty sure he still works at the post office, but probably off. Anime Loot Crate gave you a Ruby calendar and you were like, who would want this? That's hilarious. If I end this stream, I'm just going to go back to what I was doing before this stream, which is trying to decide what video to make. I guess probably actually I'll end the stream and then edit a couple of the members only videos I've already recorded. And not edited and released yet. I just feel like I want to have a plan. So are you done with making anime content? I mean, first of all, that's a stupid question, because am I done making anime content? I don't know. YouTube might literally not exist next year, and then I'm doing something else on whatever new platform. Like, I don't know. Thinking in absolutes is stupid, but I'm not making any anime content in the near future because it doesn't fucking work on this platform. It just doesn't. Like, the way to make anime content is to show the anime, and you can't do that on YouTube. So it's just not, it's not even worth at all considering, in my opinion. It doesn't work. It worked at a time, it does not work anymore. Or else I would be doing it. But yeah, I'm I can't even imagine trying with anime right now. The copyright situation is so fucked. Even music has a similar problem. Like, I can't play you the music. I just can't. It makes the most sense. Can't do it. Bring back the otaku cast. There was never an otaku cast. You mean the weeb cast? Why do you live in 6-7 years ago, Airy Rude Boy? You need to catch up to the present time. You need to stop thinking about things that happened a long fucking time ago. Like, it is revealing that your life hasn't had anything in it. Like, it feels sad. It feels sad for you. From my perspective, it is like, wow, how are you still thinking about shit that happened so long ago? Like, you gotta live in the present. Tier list Thursdays, indeed. Yeah, I've got a bunch of those I need to edit and actually release. I had thought I had lost a bunch of them, like most of them, and then I found them. You meant the old-ass anime cast. But the thing is, I already covered all the old-ass anime. Like, if I did it now, it would be just me talking about shows that I was talking about when I started making videos, you know? Like, I'd just be going back over 2014 anime or whatever. My Prince of Tennis video got 21,000 views and for some reason has ads, but I'm not seeing any of that money. You would have seen $21 from that, but yeah. I mean, it happens. They can just take your ad money on any video. I have a lot of stuff I want to sell on eBay. So I'll probably do a stream where I just advertise like stuff I'm selling on eBay at some point. Be like, hey, if anybody wants to buy this shit, I got a bunch of shit. Like all these records back here. I'm going to sell all those records. You can't even see those, I don't think. But yeah, I'm more concerned about... If you knew that nothing you made would ever take off with views, what would you make? Nothing. Why would I make it? Why would I? I mean, the answer is what I already make. I already think that nothing I make is going to take off with the views, and I still make shit. So, whatever I'm making, that is it. That is the answer to that. I pretty much make whatever I can. Landon, a show having footage on YouTube does not mean you get to use that footage. You just aren't comprehending the way this functions. What would I lock into if views weren't an issue? Probably indie games and indie films. Like, just anything. My ideal would be to talk about shit no one's heard of, because that's what needs a platform. Like, shit that people already know about, you already know about, you don't need me to tell you about it, you can just go form your own opinions about it. The problem is that people are not interested in learning about a new thing as much as they are interested in justifying why they feel what they feel already. Like, most people are interested in, like, oh, I just experienced this movie, now I'm going to listen to other people talk about the movie so I can decompress those feelings. And if nobody watched that movie, nobody cares to click on the video about that movie. Unless they care about you as a content creator, but then they might not go and watch the movie or care about it beyond the fact that they watched you make a video about it. So it's like, you have to, connect to something that people are already thinking about. They're like, when I think about what's in the zeitgeist of my community, I think about I Saw the TV Glow. Like, people have literally asked me to talk about that movie, but I've already seen hours-long analyses of that movie by other trans people. And it's not even that I think I wouldn't have anything to say about it if I watched it. I'm not that interested in it, like, genre-wise or aesthetically. It's just not my cup of tea. But that is the kind of thing that I see as, like, an obvious pick, right? Like, it's really big with people that I care about, like, with my community, so to speak. It has a lot to be unpacked about it, and people want that. And it probably would have been smart, or still would be smart for me to cover that movie. It's just that I'm very particular about what I cover. I don't want to watch things because people want me to cover them, even though that's silly. I want it to be this intersection where, like, I'm naturally attracted to it and my audience wants it. Maybe I'm just asking too much out of life in general, but, I feel like it should be possible. There's certain things that it's like, it might not look, like, it might not have an obvious answer to how you get there, but there should be a way, Yeah, to tell people to care about indie stuff, you have to compare it to something more popular usually. Yeah, for sure. Well, people are just not naturally inclined to like anything that they're not familiar with. Like, most indie stuff is comparable to something because you don't just make something up out of the blue. Like, usually it's, oh, I love Zelda so much, I'm going to make a Zelda, like, with my own aesthetics. Like, I want to make Zelda, but I want it to have a girl that you can play as. And they're never going to throw $5 million behind Zelda with a girl. So I'm going to make the $5,000 version of Zelda with a girl. That's what makes an indie game, Everything about reacting to people's videos about you, people don't make those. What are you talking about? Airy Rude Boy, you really got to catch up to the present. I really feel like you're living in 7 years ago. People are not making videos about me in 2025. Chris Leafos, I'm glad you're checking my community page. I do, like, putting stuff on that is good is what I consider to be the main point of what I do, but it's really hard to get paid to do that. Like, people don't generally see the, like, fiscal value in curation. Like, they want to pay for the art. They don't want to pay for the fact that you told them about the art, What would I lock into if viewers were the only thing that mattered to me? I would use the YouTube AI function to determine my videos. Let's see what YouTube thinks I should do right now. What YouTube AI thinks I should do. I don't know if y'all know about this feature. It's pretty funny. Come on, load in. Take me to inspiration. All right, here's what YouTube thinks I should do based on how AI understands my channel. The anime season of unfulfilled potential. Why anime Twitter can't critique animation. That's kind of funny. Is AI the end of anime creativity? Are anime openings still art? Why would that have changed? Can a horror anime ever be truly scary? Yeah, those all sound fucking terrible, so that's what I would do if views were the only thing that mattered to me. I would get ChatGPT to write one of those for me and I'd post it. Hello, Neko Lover 881. Hope I'm doing well. I'm surviving. How yay doing? I'm surviving. I was drinking earlier. Now I'm driving. Where the bad bitches, huh? Where you hiding? Of course it's all anime. Hold on. Y'all don't understand. My channel, I have not done anything relevant from YouTube's perspective in a really long time. How do I get to the analytics? Come on, analytics. Let's go. All right, so my top content in this month, all right, this month, the last 28 days. The Asterisk War sucks, 6,458 views. Actually, it's really rare that the Asterisk War sucks is above How to Recognize a Terrible Anime. This is interesting. Usually it's the other way around. How to Recognize a Terrible Anime, 3,093 views. Sword Art Online, An Analytical Diatribe, 2,229 views. Ginga Au Densetsu, Anime's Most Epic Story, 2,192 views. This is the only one from the last 5 years, and it is 3.5 years old. The Ghibli casts always get a lot of views because some websites have these listed as the films. So they get really bad retention and really bad like ratios because they are just they are listed on websites as the films themselves because of, I assume, AI. Kuroki Tomoko, 1,300. Justifying Berserk's Most Disturbing Moments, 1,100. Sustainable War Sucks. An actually new video. A video I actually put out in the last 28 days. 1,148 views. Requests on Twitch. Hey, a stream. 2 live streams. So these are the videos I actually put out this month. Occupying the 8th, 9th, and 10th spaces. And here are the 7 videos from 2022 at the most recent that are outperforming those this month. This month. So, you know, YouTube still considers my old videos to be the ones that it's basing my reputation on. That's why I keep telling people this channel is cooked. Nothing I do here is going to make YouTube change its mind about my channel because my old videos are still outperforming me all the time. So, yeah, the algorithm does not know what to do. It does not know what to do. I need a new audience. Exactly. But who? And does it matter? Should I be just doing the thing, the idea that seems the most profitable, right? Like, but even then it's really hard for me to identify that because it's not always the thing that is beloved the most as much as the thing that is beloved the most that nobody's talking about, you know? Like, where is the underserved market? Like, if I were to start making, for instance, I like Hell of a Boss, and Hell of a Boss is super popular. If I jumped on that bandwagon and just, like, watched the whole show and said all this shit about it, not only would it take a long time to build up, but there's already tons of competition. There's tons of big channels just talking about Hell of a Boss. So at that point, I would have to ingratiate myself to those channels and grow through them, through networking with them, to even be a voice in that community because it's already so big. Whereas, for instance, if I made a video about Atelier Mary, that's something that came up earlier in the conversation. My bigger concern is, do enough people even care about this for it to be watched? But I know that there's a hole in the discussion because, like, I've done, I've searched for all the videos about it. None of them are good. There's no good videos about the first Atelier game. So, like, if I made a video about Atelier Mary, it would almost guarantee to be the best video about the game that exists on YouTube. The question is that worth something? Is that worth something to the audience, And it might be that it would only become worth something once I had covered, like, the most popular one, right? Like, not that many people have gone back to the first Atelier, but people fucking love Atelier Ryza because of them thighs. So, like, would it be more beneficial to start from Ryza and work your way back? Or, like, what makes sense? Or are there people who are curious about the older games and don't know about them yet? Maybe you have assumed they're not that interesting, but if they actually went back and played them, they'd like it. And you could reveal that to them. There's just so many angles. I watch too much YouTube. I think maybe that's the issue. I know too many different ways a video could be done. I feel like most people either have an idea before they get on YouTube, or they, like, watch a certain type of video and they go, I'm going to do that. And I'm at a point where I'm like, I can think of several hundred approaches to making a YouTube video that all make equal sense to me. And, like, my intrigue is just in doing a thing that works more so than in doing a specific thing, It's tough. Because I'll have ideas that are, like, fundamentally completely different from anything I've done before, but then I just don't know how to, like, who do I sell that to, Feels like everything's been done in choice paralysis. Yeah. Choice paralysis is the biggest problem I'm facing, is a lot of good ideas, no great ideas, a ton of ideas, like literally hundreds of ideas that I have had that are still good. Like, I could probably make a list of literally 100 ideas that I can remember having had that I still think are good ideas. It would still be good videos, and I don't know if any of them are good enough to, like, be that makes so much sense. This stream kind of convinced me that talking about Shantae might be a good idea, even if I feel like, even if I didn't have, like, the best relationship with it, it might still be worth talking about. Especially because I have this, like, I bought this. I clearly care. I cannot pretend I don't care when I have this. So maybe it's worth investigating why I care, more than it is trying to say, oh, this is, like, an amazing thing and everybody should like it. It's just like, why is this interesting to me? It's to such an extent. I own a box, And I also really like cute 'em ups, but I'm fucking terrible at them. Become the nostalgia critic. What the fuck is it? You don't know Shantae? It's a game series. I was playing it earlier on the stream, but I don't feel like opening it back up right now. I feel too defeated. I feel defeated by... Could do a cute 'em up on slime dolls. That could definitely happen. I have a whole... I think I have a whole channel for the sake of... Let's see... Yeah, Bomber Girl cute 'em up. I created a whole Bomber Girl cute 'em up channel. Nothing's on here yet. No imagery, no posts, no anything, but it exists. Got Bomber Girl Vera for cozy games. Which I don't know if Shooters are so uncozy. Like, cute 'em ups are so uncozy that they couldn't go on this channel anyway, but I just thought I'd make a channel dedicated to that. Look at all these fucking channels. Look, I have a whole Metroid channel I've never posted on, too. I wrote like 20 pages about Metroid 1 like 3 years ago and created this whole channel about it. Nothing is here. No subscribers. Hey, look, it's Slime Dolls. Slime Dolls has more subs than Vera does already. That's incredible. Talking about them classics. I've also been thinking about doing videos about Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, like playing back through them and doing videos. I think I could probably just unscripted rant about Ocarina of Time. It's just, again, if I did it and it didn't get a lot of attention, I'd be so disappointed. Like, if I really put effort into talking about Ocarina and then nobody cared, I'd be, like, devastated. I think maybe that's the problem I'm having, is I'm too worried about the reaction. I'm too worried about people not watching a video to actually do the video. How many think... Rough estimate, how many channels do you think you have across your whole YouTube ventures? 30? Which is fewer than how many WordPress blogs I used to have. And that was only for like 4 years that I was doing WordPress, and I had like 40 blogs. Most of them had no posts on them. They're just conceptual. Like, I get the idea for a thing, and then I want the space for that to exist, to be set up for me, you know? So let's see. We got, just on the Golden Witch Fire email, Picnic Adventure, Twilight of the Golden Witch, which is not used yet, Barrier Suit, which is not used yet, Sunday Redial, Slime Dolls, Comments on Comments, and We Watch Anime. All of that is on just the Golden Witch Fire Gmail. And then Bomber Girl Vera has 2 channels. Digibrony MLP, which is what the Trixie channel is on, has 4 channels. I'm an editor for ASE Presents. I got the Digi Does Anime backup channel, and Ghoster, which mostly is just home to the lyric video for Message to Harry Manbag by Tool. My original YouTube channel, Modal Soul Productions, as well as the Digibro and Beatrice Collins channels attached to that. And those are just the ones I'm signed into on this computer right now, which is 4 emails out of probably 10 that I have that have YouTube accounts. Ocarina of Time is overrated, trash, all that. I mean, you can be wrong all you want all day. I know you love doing that, but you know, it's not gonna change anything about what the truth is. Hello, Mary Kiwi. Alright, I think I'm gonna conclude this stream. I did not accomplish anything I set out to with this stream, and I don't think I'm going to. I think it's just going to keep going in circles of me going, maybe I could do this, maybe I could do that. I'm just going to go do a thing, whichever thing occurs to me first as, like, jumping out for my attention. I Am Games, great brand. I don't know if that's true, but I enjoyed it a lot. I liked that branding. I am games. I don't just play games. I am games. I want an I Am Games shirt. Just print one. Thank you. Your stuff is cool for Canadian $2. Yes, go do a thing. I will bother you about a hip-hop podcast later. And that's a good idea. Yeah, we need to figure out what we're going to talk about on that. Like, what are you the most interested in covering? Like, new releases, old releases, general thoughts on the culture. We got to find an angle. Because we could be like, every new release or every Friday we just review the new releases and say what we got to say about them. Or we could do it like, revisiting classics or having conversations about the culture. Or all of that. I don't know. I don't know what people would want from us. But I do think a hip-hop podcast would be interesting. I'm surprised it never occurred to me. Like, never once ever did I think, I'll just make a podcast about it. Like, even though technically we had one with Jittery Zeitgeist. But like, yeah. All right. Me and Nisa are gonna talk about this. If it happens, it'll be on the Nova Loves Music channel. So if you care about hip hop, the intersection of anime and hip hop, and I'll say this, Airy Rude Boy, that is something I'm interested in zeroing in on. So this is another. I should have mentioned this when I was listing all those fucking video ideas I have. Because with hip hop, like I said, I've been stuck on the fact that like I'm not from the streets and I'm white, you know. So like, there's a level where I'm like, I can talk about hip hop, but if I'm gonna be completely real, you know, like the stuff I relate to the most is like the weirdo backpacker shit, you know. And granted, I think there's not enough people talking about that stuff. I just don't know if there's enough audience for that stuff also. I think there might be, you know. I was trying to break into that by covering Open Mike Eagle as my first video on Nova Loves Music, but that video has not really performed, and like the people I sent it to, nobody really like promoted it that way or anything. So I'm like, all right, maybe this wasn't the one, but you know, it might be worth continuing to try. But the video idea I have is why rappers keep referencing Ghost in the Shell. Like that's what I was gonna do as my next Nova video, and here's what kind of held me up, right? So the reason I want to do it is that on the new Earl Sweatshirt album, the best song and best performing song on the album is Tourmaline. And in that song, the rap verse just starts, "Ghost in the Shell, you a hell of a host." And Professor Sky did a review of the album, and I showed up to his premiere, and I just typed Ghost in the Shell in chat, and he said, "Oh, I didn't mention the anime reference in my video." And I said, "Sky, you have to watch Ghost in the Shell." And he said, "I'll do that." And then it occurred to me that, like, Professor Sky has never seen Ghost in the Shell, and so he's never thought about why rappers are referencing Ghost in the Shell. But it happens a lot. It's one of the most referenced anime. You know, Lupe Fiasco's referenced it, obviously. Kanye West has referenced it, you know, Earl's referenced it now. And so I was like, I'm going to find every time Ghost in the Shell has ever been mentioned in a rap song. I'm going to make a whole video about it. Styles P is 1/3 of the Locks, a very famous New York hip-hop outfit that people really love and has a lot of cultural cachet. They did a Tiny Desk. They wrote for Diddy. They wrote for Notorious B.I.G. Styles P has a lot of albums and a lot of mixtapes. One of them is called Ghost in the Shell from 2002. He released it under the name Super Mario. And I'm listening to this album thinking, wow, a whole project called Ghost in the Shell. It's nerdcore because it's got Mario drops on every song. But aside from the fact that it's a pretty standard street hip-hop album, there's a song on there, trigger warning, there's a song on there called Kill That Faggot, and the hook is just him shouting that repeatedly, like 8 times in a row. Kill that faggot, kill that. Yeah, you know, like I don't want to get it stuck in your head. And that was a moment where I had to sit back and go, do I really want to talk about hip-hop? Like, this is hip-hop culture. This is what it is. You've seen a clip of that song on Twitter? That's amazing. Yeah, no. Of course that would be the most famous song from like an album no one's heard of. A rapper barely anyone except for like the hardest core rap fans have heard of. And of course the one song anyone would know from it is the one where he's just shouting, "Kill that faggot," over and over again. So I got to that song, and it truly gave me pause. It was like, do I really want to talk about this album? Do I even really want to talk about hip-hop? Because I feel like if I complain about this, culturally, I'll be the bad guy. Like, I'll be the white faggot complaining about getting insulted in the rap song that made me uncomfortable. Oh, my precious little feelings. I couldn't handle the Kill That Faggot song, you know. Like, just in the face of all that, I was like, do I belong in this culture? Like, talking about this, like, it's fine if I am an admirer and a fan. Do I really want to be a part of a culture that, like, in the course of me trying to talk about an anime reference in a rap song, led me down the kill that faggot rabbit hole. I don't know. Again, like I have this mountain of loyalty and faith that is applicable but has no target. And that's unusual, right? It's unusual to not have a target. Because how did you develop that habit if not that there was... And it's an answer of loss of faith. It's that the things and the people that I placed my faith in when I was young, as I grew up, I lost faith in. You know, the institutions, my parents, the video game companies, anything I thought was interesting as a kid, I'm like, I don't know if I still, you know. He said, it's a great fucking question, but like a lot of hip-hop fans are people who feel betrayed and fucked by the culture in some way or the other, and that is true too. I feel that way as a black woman. And that's why I think it would be good to do a podcast where we could really have those kind of because like talking to yourself is not a good way to have a discussion, you know, like about any of these type of topics where like I feel like I'm bouncing off of nothing. You know, if I just talk into a camera about why I feel slighted by, you know, Styles P making a Ghost in the Shell album where one of the most prominent songs not only has nothing to do with Ghost in the Shell, you know, but I think it could survive better as something where we're talking it out, maybe even with more, like, I really like those Illuminati podcasts because she'll have like 5 or 6 people and they get fucking heated on those things. So, you know, if we did that kind of like targeted discussion, like maybe we could have a whole episode, like maybe just open out, like from the gate, come out with like hip hop is homophobic. Like, let's talk about it, you know? Or to make it more hopeful, hip hop is finally opening up to homosexuality. But we could talk about like, because I don't know if y'all know, Lil Nas X just went to jail. Damn, you tapped into Black Leftist YouTube. That's all I watch is Black Leftist YouTube. That's what I'm saying. This is why it's so difficult for me. It's like I'm literally like physically a white person and all I watch is Black Leftist YouTube. So I don't know how I fit into that specifically, but yeah, I am very tapped into that. But like the if we came out the gate with like Lil Nas X just went to prison and like the homophobia against him has been crazy, you know, like it's like all these people who are like, oh well, you shouldn't have fucked with God, that's why you're in jail. And it's like, dog, the shit that other rappers have been saying on their albums and you would never, like, why did Young Thug not get this treatment, you know? Like, Young Thug can wear a dress, and because he didn't say he was gay, it's a completely different story when he's going to jail versus Lil Nas X, you know? I gotta do more research into it and, like, collect more opinions to make myself mad. Part of the problem I have is I try to avoid making myself mad, and I think it would be a lot better for me as a content creator, and maybe even just as a human being, if I made myself angry more. Like, I get mad and my first instinct is, like, I gotta placate this. You know, like, I get mad and I'm like, I'm gonna go get high, or, like, I'm gonna go drink, I'm gonna go stop being mad. I'm not very good at, like, deciding that I'm just gonna use my anger and just be mad about a thing, because I feel like, who wants to hear me be mad? But I'm sure there are people. I'm sure there are people. Every time I've been truly, truly righteously angered, you know, full of anger, I should say, there have been, in fact, sometimes millions of people who wanted to see me bad. So I'll probably bring that out of you because I get heated over a lot of this shit. All right, let's do that. Yeah, let's plan that out. We'll pick a time and shit, and we gotta do some kind of hip hop podcast. This hadn't even occurred to me, and it's a good idea. And doing stuff with other people is a lot easier for me than doing it by myself. You know, like doing Slime Dolls with Krona. You know, we postponed our latest stream because very sadly her cat passed away last night. Felicia, rest in peace. Shout out. And yeah, like, I don't know when she's gonna be, you know, ready to to do like a plucky, fun video game live stream about a creepy fucking game. But you know, we'll start that soon. But like, even when I do stuff with Corona, like, I still have so many more hours in the day, and like, I need to do something that's just like raw, accessible, and profitable. Like, I think the stuff we're doing on Slime Dolls is accessible. It's just a matter of like getting an audience to pay attention to it in a kind of saturated market, you know. I do think that the stuff that Nisa and I would have to say about hip hop would actually be pretty distinct. Nobody's doing a good job. Nobody's doing a good job calling out the homophobia. Like, there are people talking about it, but they're not really, you know, like, there's people who are like, oh, it's a big problem, but they're not gay, so they're not, like, mad, you know? Young Thug said he wears a dress to hide his gun. Yeah, everyone wears a dress to hide their gun. Anyway. Alright. I'm gonna log off. See you all later.